episode of Relative Pitch. Why do I sound like I'm doing an NPR voice?
Because you are.
Relative Pitch. My name is Shannon Cumbrow, and these are my two hosts.
What did you say?
Who is Shannon McBrow?
No, she said Sharon Cumbrow.
I think I said Sharon Cumbrow or McBrow. I don't know.
No,
what
you didn't say muck. You didn't say
that was
muck.
my alternate. I don't know, my alternative ego or something. But
we should do a relative pitch mukbang.
Mukbang. Aww.
I do have food.
Ooh.
I do have a lot of food.
I have food.
I got hamburger helper sitting right down on that stove.
That's a little hamburger helper.
It's a little,
What are you trying to say?
It's just a blast from the past. I don't know.
But rhymes with paler dark.
Trailer park.
It's been an interesting week apparently because everyone's just on something. I don't know. It's
Mercury's retrograde.
It's not. I think it just got out of, but we're in the shadow period. Shout out to all my astrology babes. We're out here. We're doing the thing.
What is that?
Yes, Anthony, by the way, if you didn't know this, they're not just signs anymore. There's a shadow and a rising and a retrograde and a
I know about risings, and I know in fourth grade, fourth something, fourth some y'all.
Fourth houses, all the houses, yeah.
Honestly,
we should read all of our charts. That would
we shouldn't.
I actually have my chart.
I don't have my chart.
One of my best friends, shout out Bree, she loves astrology, so she made me do the whole I was born at this time on this day, and the whole chart comes up. I don't know what that says about me.
Y'all should use that.
I felt targeted.
The Pattern is the app that I like, and it's the one that you put in all that stuff, and it gives you all your specific little things. And daily advice, to just make sure you're aligned with the moon and the stars.
You know what advice I always take?
Stop.
Don't eat egg salad and ride a bus.
See, why you had to say it? Why did you say it?
Lauren can bleep it out.
I won't.
Ooh.
Please. I'm tired of bleeping. If y'all say y'all about to say what you gonna say, and it's gonna get heard.
Can we talk about it? So, in case anybody who's listening who thinks that we are editing, we don't do that. That is it's so much work.
Whatever. This is the beginning.
It is. Who was it that we just had on recently? It was can you bleep that out?
Child, somebody. But listen, I almost didn't. Because listen, you said it, so why would I bleep it out?
Again, stand 10 toes down on what you said. Because that brings me up on a good point.
In the kitchen. We
were at a conference recently, and of course, we were just saying things that we felt. And here's my thing. Yes, I'm going to say what's on my mind, but best believe that if you ask me about it, I'm going to tell you what I said. One is because I stand 10 toes down on what I believe. And that goes for my musical decisions. That goes for my opinions. If I said it, I meant it.
Is 10 toes down the new I said it with my chest?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. When did this saying start? Ooh. It's not old.
If you got to ask about it, you ain't with the right people.
This is true. Who you hanging out with, Michael? It's not us. It's not me.
Ooh.
I guess nobody then.
But no, that's the thing is so you go to a concert and you hear some things. If the concert wasn't good,
it wasn't good.
I don't understand. What do people want people to say? Do you want people to lie to you?
It was good. Yeah, it was good.
But then again, even your real friends, you want them to lie to you too and just say yeah, it was great. But everybody is behind your back talking about you.
I think there could be some people say there's like the respectability period of like right after, if you're talking directly to someone being like, oh yeah, like, but then like the next day you see them going, you know what, that wasn't your best, but I couldn't say that to you then, like.
Right. I again respectful. Let them, have their night and da 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 da. And most of the time, a lot of people, conductors, performers, they know when it wasn't their best.
Oh, they
And they'll
immediately.
say that. They'll say that. I will be like, it really wasn't it. But thank you for the support. Always thank you for your support. But what honestly really gets on my nerves is when people cut their ears off. Like,
and over romanticize and dramatize what they're hearing.
and idolize, just because your fave did a concert does not mean it was good. You know,
No,
like people really are like, oh my gosh, um, Rihanna her concert was so good.
I've heard live like recordings.
Thank you. Come on now, everybody in the world, or Britney Spears. Britney Spears it was such a great concert. Was she singing? Was her mic on? If it was on,
or like in our field with conferences and other things, when you hear your former teachers or colleagues do something and it's just like, I still love you, but that just wasn't your best.
Sure.
And that's okay. We're not always at 100%. If we were, that's a Sibelius file. Like, we don't really need that in our lives.
Mm-hmm.
That's like why we do live performances, for the excitement. But like, you don't have to die on a rock because you like that person.
yeah, definitely. It's like have your own mind. And like in the conducting realm, a lot of people talk about, being copycats of your teacher. And it's like you learn things from your teachers and da 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 da, but you also have to become your own person and realize, okay, I do like what my teacher did here, but the rest of this is not me. I got to find something about me.
No, let's talk about that though, because this is especially the higher you get within your programs, like, or the further along you get within your education, the more and more you have to like make those decisions of being like, is it really wrong that I'm not doing it the same as you, or is it just different and unique to who I am? Because that's something that it's a weird, nuanced, blurred gray line of like when you get told lesson and advice when you're a graduate student and you're like, I actually don't agree with that, and I'm not going to do that. You know what I mean? And I can understand being a professor, a teacher, and you believe truly that this is how this should be played and da da da. But no, right? Because even maybe your favorite recording doesn't do that exactly how you do, or not everything is the same about your recording and your favorite recording. So like there just has to be this, and this is a big thing that I have just been finding in general. I feel like the more and more we go away, like we're just going throughout the music field or the music had whatever history, music history, it feels like right now there's a lot of like looking back, a lot of like trying to look back to what things were and to copy exactly what they were instead of to keep moving forward. And that's my biggest thing, mainly about large institutions and organizations like symphony orchestras and wind ensembles are kind of doing more of their thing, but I know there's still room to grow. But also like higher academia in general, it feels like there's just not enough emphasis on uniqueness and personal situations, and it's just too much of you do what I did because I do what my teacher did and they did what their teacher did and da da da. You know.
Yes, 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 yes. And I think as teachers, we need, it's funny that we tell our students not all students are the same or not all students learn the same, but then we teach them the way we were taught.
Mm-hmm.
And as a student now, I stand 10 toes down that I don't agree with 100% of the things my teacher says to me. I take it with respect. Obviously, they have, been in this field for a long time. I respect their opinions, da da da. But it's also one of the things that's just not who I am.
Right.
You know, even conducting wise. Luckily, I have a good relationship with all of my teachers where they're like, try this. but they understand that, okay, I tried, but that just doesn't feel right. And especially with conducting, it's such a personal journey.
Mm-hmm.
And you can always tell when something isn't natural for that person, where
Yeah.
they're putting on a show. In fact, when let me not be messy.
What were you gonna say? What were you gonna say?
Let me swallow that real
Right.
quick.
Let me say this politically correct. So us three here, we talk about conductors sometimes after we see them, and like you two would say some things, and it would say, well, that person didn't come off as genuine, or it wasn't believable. And in my head, I've kind of determined that is they are trying their best to look like their teacher.
Mm.
And which in a conductor's journey, we all do that. I have done that. I still do that where I'm like, oh, I need to look like this person and do this. But after that, it's like, okay, well, that when you look back at yourself, I technically did what that person did, but it didn't look right on me. And
No.
it's this self-realization that I think all musicians need to have, is we need to realize not everything for other people is for us. And that goes for teaching as well.
I
Because
was
a lot of teachers will judge their success on getting to a conference, or, getting to something like that. And then they come back, and then like the kids, we need to do this and we need to be like this band or this choir or this ensemble. No, you don't. The reason they got there is because they had their own personality, their own traits, their own kookiness. They had their strengths and they had their weaknesses.
Mm-hmm.
But
But
they
they
knew
knew how to formulate that to make it a good product. So continue to do what you do, what your program do, what your heart says, and stop worrying about what others. However, I know it's hard, because the age that we live in is the social media age, where we get on Facebook or Twitter and all we see is the glitz and glam of people's, rooms or practice rooms or whatever. Promise you, they struggling just like you.
Right.
Just like.
and like I just had a talk with a kid today. It didn't feel like today. Today was so long ago. But one of my kids in one of the sectionals just could not hit a note. And I just saw him go down and down and down. I pulled him over. I said, bro, when I was your age, I thought G on top of the staff was the highest note a trumpet could hit. Boy, I was wrong. But, you are struggling with this. And this is the reason why. But take this practice mute, since you can't practice at home too loud. Go practice. And who cares if you miss it? Because come March 13th, you're going to nail it.
Right.
Because we're going to make sure you're going to have it. But no, like what you were saying earlier about like teachers judge off of this. Now, I do think in our field, we do have built-in litmus test. Like, okay, are you doing what you're not supposed to, but are you doing well within your program? And your program have the resources to, let's say, go play at a Troy, an MFA, GMEA, a TMEA, a SMEA, whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool if you can do that. If not, are you building the program with success? And what is success determined by you? Mm-hmm. Now, you can't go to these SMEA, TMEA, FMEA, MEM, whatever it's called, and then run back to your band and be like, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks, this sucks. Look at yourself first. Look at how you've been teaching. And then, is this the best that's been put in me from my teaching?
Can we talk about that actually? Again, self-realization. Before you go on a rampage to your students or to anybody who's under, and this could be taken to anything, like if you're a manager or anything like that, before you go and try to spit fire somewhere else, you might want to check in with yourself.
Well, what's really interesting about that is like I was reading this book that's about like mindset and all these different things, but I thought what was really interesting about it was the fact that they were talking about with the people's like New Year's resolutions. Like it wasn't that they would try to change their mindset; it was that they tried to immediately just change their habits. So they would be like, a day happened, and they're like, "Oh, I'm just immediately on this new diet," and it's like the reason. So what happens is maybe a week goes by if you're strong, maybe a month goes by, and just by sheer will you stuck in it, but then at some point you drop off, and it's because it's not just the sheer will of changing, trying to change habits. You have to change your mindset. And so what you have to do in order to change mindset, you have to sit for a moment and you have to reflect. And I feel like what y'all are talking about is a lot of people go to these conferences, a lot of educators go to these conferences, and you're so pumped up, like, yeah, I got all this information. And then you immediately just try to change things with your students instead of actually sitting down and going, you know what? It may not be the best to try to implement these things immediately. It might be better actually if I sit down, look at this, digest it, look at myself first, and think about what I need to change in my mindset, and before I start thinking about habits to change and things to change within my own students in my program. Um,
Yeah. Also on top of what you just said is when you sit and you think, you and you come up with this whole like, okay, this is how I'm going to go about this. It needs to be realistic.
mm-hmm.
Your
Yes.
measures of success or your measures of changing, your New Year's resolution. Okay, if I need to lose 50 pounds before June, yes, I can starve myself today.
You could.
I could.
It's an option.
I mean, and I could also do liposuction, which would get it done quickly. Yes.
Period.
But
But
also the thing about liposuction is I can also gain that weight right back
Right back. But you
before,
do it right
before June. Before June. So, I'm trying to lose weight before June, and I spent all this money to do this big procedure, this life-threatening procedure, as it is. And then still June, I'm still sitting here 50 pounds, sitting right here on my stomach, right here.
period.
But, or I could say, okay, it's the New Year's, I need to lose 50 pounds. What's the first thing that I can do? Well, the first thing I can do, all of these sweets that's sitting over here, I could get rid of those. I could start drinking water instead of soda. Instead of eating out, I can start cooking for myself. This is
Yeah.
even before, working out. Ew, who wants to do that?
even before then, evaluating like, what am I eating? What's my normal activity?
Also,
You know,
when you eat,
when
when you
Right.
eat.
how
And
much do I eat?
but
Yes.
carry
Yes.
on both of y'all like another way is like I wanted to practice a little bit more, so I had to change my schedule. That's the only thing I had to do. Like I can't lose money because y'all, I am a football's throw from being ITP, and if you're in Atlanta, you know what that is. That's a lot of money. So I can't lose money at this point. So I had to readjust my days. I have 3 days where I get home at 6, and I have 2 days where I go till 10 o'clock at night. It's just what it is. Like some people are like, oh, that's crazy. Well, those 3 days I now can practice.
Right.
I left my Saturdays open because I watch UGA football in the fall. I don't watch any sports now, so I have Saturdays to practice. It's like you have to make an adjustment. But it can't be like I didn't come out here practicing 3 hours a day when I got home at 6. I would literally want to jump out my window.
Right.
You make the adjustment and then you happen to do things. There was one thing you were saying.
Let me add to that what you just said,
Yep.
though, real quick. But even before then, you had to look at your schedule and find the places where it could be adjusted before you
Yep.
even made. So there, that's what all this to say. There's so many things to do before you even do the first thing you can do. You know what I mean? There's so much time and reflect, and I think that's what it is. These knee jerk reactions, and then you try something, and then you're like, why didn't it work? It's because you just tried. You didn't really think and try to implement it into what it actually meant. Maybe that's not even a change you actually needed to make. Half the time it's actually not.
Ooh,
And
yes. Yes.
and I agree with that. And like, but if you're gonna make the change, if you actually are about that life, that's what I tell my students. I'm like, because I told them, because this is true for all undergraduate people who are going in performance. If you don't go straight to a master's or you don't win a job, you are competing with me. So if you're going to be about that life, what are you going to do over the next 4 years to get to my level?
Mm.
Like, I'm not saying you have to be better than me tomorrow, but you have 4 years of education, of free things to soak up that you've already paid for. So they're not free. But people were like, oh, I want to do this with my band. My band can do this. Can you lead your band there? Are you in a place right now to lead your band where you want your band to go?
Mm.
Or do you need to surround your program? Like, is Lauren in a place to do something she wants to do with like a chamber ensemble? Like, is Anthony in a place to form his ensemble? Like, if you wanted to do a whole new ensemble and get like conducting videos every week and really fine tune his thing, is he in a place to do that? Or does he even want to do that? Like, that's the thing. Like, there's all these different things. Like, one of my students came up to me and was like, I want to be an orchestral musician. I'm like, bet. How obsessed can you be about it?
Mm.
Like, how much can you be in that practice room perfecting your craft for a 10-minute audition to make sure you get past that round? Like, that's just the realities we live in nowadays.
I
And it's
think,
like, you got to be about it, and you got to make sure you're in a place to be about it.
and you're right. Everything you're saying is right. Like if you want to have a, job as an orchestral musician, I hope you're ready to be in a practice room for most of your life. That is just the truth. Or like even when you are when you've made it, when you've got the gig, you are still every single week. Guess what? There's a new show. That means you are constantly learning repertoire. And it's not like these. Listen, I work at the Seattle Symphony. These musicians don't just do that for work. A lot of them are teachers themselves. They are also doing all these other community performances and other things on top of their normal schedule. So there's constantly new music to be learning, new music to work back up that maybe you've learned in the past. But the whole thing about it, that's just the truth about it, right? So well, we have to, at some point, we do make the decisions that we do, and then we go down those paths. That happens. My issue nowadays with what's going on is there's too much of the doing and not enough of the planning and implementing. So especially after COVID, there's too many knee-jerk reactions and things that people and organizations and institutions are just doing. Like we're really about it. We do it. I'm like, maybe you should have waited though. Because I think if you actually took a week, a day, a week, month, a year, even to sit down and reevaluate, because you can't just do something and think it's going to stick. You have to think first about the past, about what's already been done, what you're currently doing, and then use that to make the new adjustments for the future you see for yourself. Same thing for every decision, though. If you want to get a new car, you're not just going to go out and buy a random car. You're going to take time to like go, now what cars did I in the past that I like, what did I like about them? What are
Mm-hmm.
the cars nowadays? What's really good about them? What should I be looking forward to? What for my job or what I do with my life, what type of car would be suitable for me? And then all of that, you then use that to go make a decision on which car to buy. But it also goes into even choosing a major for school. We're thrown immediately into you need to pick a major or you're going to be behind. I think we should wait a year. I think actually you need to take time to realize that there are so many options out there for you that probably weren't presented all to you throughout high school. Most people don't know all the career fields, I'm assuming, before high school, before they get to college. Imagine if you took a year, no pressure, you're doing your gen eds, and you actually learned about the different things you could be doing all this. So many people wouldn't have had switches and everything. And so, when my students come up, I'm always wary. There's always the dreamers, and I love the dreamers. You all are very important people in the world because you are the ones who are, dreaming up these projects and these ideas. But then you always need the person who's going to go, let's think about this. Because too often there's a lot of dreamers in the rooms that these things are happening. Yes, Michael, you're a dreamer, and I love you for it. But then you need the person in the room who's going to go, let's actually think about what about this is realistic, if it's even needed, and how we're going to do it to actually make it effective. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Correct.
And
Um,
it's that part of being a realist of
Mm.
like, great idea, don't think that really works. And Michael, he is our resident dreamer.
He's our
I've
resident
been having the
dreamer.
biggest ideas.
And we are like,
Mhm.
good on it, bud. That's real nice.
But
Let's now, but let's love the idea. Let's oh, now he left. Oh Lord.
with the hair, I put the hair back in.
No, but this is
But
important. It's important. Yeah.
it is. But the thing is, those ideas are great, but they just need to be chiseled. It's like you have this big rock, okay, but who knows that there might be a pearl or a diamond in that
Yep.
rock. But you just got to chisel it away. And I like what you said about for college and especially in high school. In high school, this is my one thing about high school, and I really try to change this with my students. They don't tell you shit.
Mm.
They don't.
Don't.
They don't let you know all the things that are available for you once you leave these four walls of high school. Like they're just like, you can figure it out on your own. I mean, you have some students who are like, well, I want to be a marine biologist, or I want to do music, or I want to be a nurse, da 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 da. But what about, okay, if you want to be a marine biologist, what specifically in marine biology do you want to do?
What job do you see yourself coming
Right.
out that degree? Yep.
Exactly. In music, okay. Do you want to do music education? And if you want to do music education, do you want to be a high school, middle school, elementary? Do you want to do band? Do you want to do choir?
Yep.
Do you want to be a performer? Do you want to be a performer and educator? If you want to be a nurse, what type of nurse? Do you want to be a traveling nurse? Do you want to be a LPN, RPN? There are so many concentrated things under these umbrellas that
Yes.
nobody tells us about. And
No.
what I hate about in this academic world that I'm currently living in is seeing undergrads go through 4 years. And I hated this when I was in undergrad. Undergrads going through 4 years of a music education degree or a music performance degree or any degree, and then they don't utilize it. And years
Yeah.
ago, I used to blame the students of like, what this was, but no. Again, we're students. We are here to learn. We're here to be instructed. I blame those teachers who allowed those students to go through all of this coursework, spend all of their money, get a degree that they knew. And here's the thing: these professors know from day one who most
Absolutely.
likely will be, in the field and not. I actually ran into a person, and they said, "Yeah, we're probably not going to have any from this graduating class that is going to go in the field." That's not good. Like that is more worrying to me that
And
these people have spent all their money, their time,
yep.
finally get their that last semester, and they're like, I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
Now, I will say, and that's like when I saw that happening to Kennesaw people. Like, and this is where the thing, like, I saw that happening while we were at Kennesaw. Like, Anthony had a class, like the education class, and I switched from ed to performance, and I started teaching a lot because that's what I wanted to do. And not teaching like full band like Anthony does, because that is Anthony's thing. I just wanted to teach brass. And once you started getting in, even just teaching a sectional a week, and then you start talking to people who are education majors and you talk about this stuff, you find out real quick who about it, who ain't, or who understands like what it like literally. We were talking about what the idea, the dreamer, and the realist. Last week, pavement hit road. Last Monday, at a high school I work at, I was a dreamer and was like, you know what? These kids can read half notes, quarter notes, eighth notes, and all this other stuff. I wanted to regrow my hair out to rip it out again. I called Anthony. I was like, I, I, we might have to hire some college kids to come in. Like, it was bad. Like, period, bad. I told them, I was like, this is I don't know what to do with this, y'all. And then today they showed up and it was better. And then the other stuff we sight read was bad. So, okay, y'all just cannot process music. That's okay. But when I give you the music and rehearsal don't start for another 30 minutes, go ahead and start processing that music so I don't have to hear it the first time you try to process it. Don't put yourself in bad positions. But yeah, so you, and that's the thing, like, but here's, I will go on the defense of the teachers now that I am one. Sometimes we try to tell the students.
Absolutely.
And if there's not like if there's a barrier and you stay true to that barrier, use it. But if there's not, at a point you just got to let them do what they're going to do because they are not listening to you at all.
Now here's the thing. I stand by this 100%. I can lead a horse to water, but I cannot make that horse drink. It could be on its last dying breath.
Starving, thirsty, dead, basically.
Like, death is upon. And if that person is that stubborn not to drink the water, that's no longer my problem. And it's funny because my students, my high school students, if you say, what is a Mr. Morris quote? That will probably be the quote because I don't know how many times I said that. And I say it to high school students a lot because again, once they leave high school, they need to realize that you are on your own and your destiny, your life is truly in your, there's nobody holding your hand anymore. No one. So while you're in high school, we are leading you to something great, but unless you take your own life into your hands, it's not going to go right. It's truly not going to go. So that's one thing that I like to kind of give my advice to students is when you get onto this next part of your journey, make sure that you know where you want your journey to go. Like, and plan that out. Truly plan that out and say, this is what I want. This is how I'm going to get here. And realize that not everybody has your best interest in heart.
No, yeah. And especially like going into college, like we're the same people, but we're so different in so many of the things that how we think and our values and morals and beliefs and so many different things. But like when that's such an age of you're still learning who you are. And I feel like too often it's modeled, going into college is modeled after this is what my dad did, this is what my mom did, this is what all my family does, da da da. I don't think we emphasize enough that students have to learn to know who they themselves are in order to better see what's possible for you or what's something that actually would fit. And talking about all the dreamers things, there's this really cute personality test. It's like an Adobe one, but it's called My Creative Types. And I love to use it in group settings, especially when we're crafting something or creating something from the jump or it's a new set of people, to understand exactly who everyone is and how they relate to someone else, especially when you're working in a team environment like this. Like I already knew that Michael was a dreamer. I say that all the time because he is that type of person who just has those big personalities. Anthony, have you taken this test yet?
Is this the one where they give you a little letter and a letter
No,
correspond?
that's the
That's,
whatever. Yeah, it's the it looks like
yeah,
this. It's a
she had to
newer.
put up on her phone.
I did because it's such a cute one, but also I like that it makes you think about, oh, like that's because of course it's not all complex because we're all very different, right? But I think the biggest thing that I love about those, especially in group settings, in which band, music, all these are very much community type things, you have to understand who you're in the room with. And then you yourself have to understand who you are. What type of leader are you? Because there are so many great examples of leaders who are completely different from each other, but also they maybe were different because of who was in front of them or who they were leading. So take a minute, learn who you are, learn who is in front of you, and then make those steps. But don't do it before you know who you are and who you are leading.
Ooh, know who you are as a leader.
Mm.
When I was a manager of the rec center at KSU, we took one of these tests, very similar, and we got placed into 5 groups, and then we got mixed up. But that really kind of showed us of like what type of leader. And what I love about that is not everybody has to be one type of person to be a
Nope.
good leader. And majority of the time, yes, you might get one thing, but you probably exude all of the things
Yeah.
that are offered. Um, but again, play your role and know your role. Okay. Every setting that I go to, before I say anything, I have already kind of diagnosed, okay, what is my role in this? You know, who are here, who are around. Okay, that person seems to be like the loud, the one to just speak. So I don't need that. Is not my role. I'm going to sit back in the cut real quick and observe and see. But if someone asks me something, I know what's going on. And that I know that's the type of person I am. I will just be like, let me see what room is this? And honestly, each room might be different. Each room might be completely different. I might be, all right, we need to do this. We need to be here. We need to do this. As a band director, you have to be that in that classroom. Okay, when I go to a conference, that is not me.
Mm.
Mm-mm.
It's funny, like it's funny. Yeah, I don't know, like people on the other side of y'all. Hey, people watching this, because I have witnessed all of these things by Anthony. Like this year, because we're back in Georgia together, and because who I am, I like to drag my friends with me because we're going into the fire together. Because I'm not the only one burning down,
Ooh.
and I have like watched each of these, like the one, like the back in the cut. I'm not gonna say anything. That is not me. If you have called my name and brought me to a place, I will start speaking the minute I get there. And Anthony can attest to this. I will literally start with, this is where you went wrong already. The process of how you're doing this. Also, your setup is wrong. If you want this to come out of your own, like you have paid me for my mouth. My mouth will be running until I leave here. Because in my head, like what I've come to understand or like think in my head, people are paying me for my ears because they like what I hear with my ears. So when I get there, I have to just tell you exactly what I hear or what I see. I'm not one who watches it. No, because you've already seen what happens in your own program. So I'm going to tell you exactly from an outside perspective what I see and why I don't think it's successful. And that's just like how I am. And I've had to come to accept it. It's hard to like teach with like Anthony or Lauren and watch them just be back in the cut. Because I'll go say something, I walk over, I'm like, Anthony, don't you want to just? And he's like, you got it, boo. And then I say something like out of pocket. I'm like, y'all, you play like a piece of white paper. Like I hear nothing. It's not enjoyable. Like you're giving me nothing besides that you know how to play your instruments to a decently high level. And like,
I'm
it's
so glad that you have
funny.
realized this. I am so proud of your development. Like, honestly,
The awareness for me.
yeah, it's the awareness, honestly.
And it's the same way at conferences. Like,
Yeah.
I will speak my mind in a hallway right outside the session I just walked out of. Because what is this whole thing? Professional development. So I will professionally develop my criticism in front of people. Because people, like, you can criticize, you can do whatever. Like, I think the way I do things is the most correct for the situations I've been in. You can disagree with me. That is fine. You have your way, I have my way. And then going back to the leader part, I don't know about y'all, but what I've realized, this maybe come to Anthony and Lauren a little bit, standing in front of a group, you have to realize who you are as a leader more. Like when you're in charge of like 12 people making a music happen. And what I've realized, understand is like, I'm going to be the standard and I'm going to raise your standards and you have to meet them. I'm not going to lower them. I will show you how to get there, but it's up to you to get there. And it's like, as y'all were saying, you just got to know who you are. And then if people don't like you, there's other people. There's how many people in this world? Someone is bound to like you.
Right.
It is too.
Or like, as TikTok, as the lady who I love on TikTok said, get somebody else to do it.
Right. They're there.
Get somebody else to do it. But I'm for real. Like, because it's funny, me and Laura, we really like.
But let me say this though. Out of the three of us though, I'm the one who's really sitting back here like this, because, and I will say that because I get called out for it. I have so many times in front of them and in other situations been like, I really want to hear what Lauren has to say, or da da da, and I'm just kind of like, if I haven't said anything, don't think that it's not because I don't have something to say. It is, I am observing who I am in the environment that I am and what that means. And I'm going to, there are so many reasons as to why I don't open my mouth. And I've learned, and also who I am and what that means to be who I am. I have to watch what I say more often than other colleagues might have to. That is a whole nother layer of that as well. In these settings, especially when there are people all these ears, I want to be the person listening to everything. I want to be the person who catches the little nuances, the glances, how people are reacting to what other people are saying, because I'm going to leave with the most information. And for me, that is the most important thing you can have is information. And at conferences, we really, the three of us are a work of art. I don't know how, but it works perfect.
And then we debrief and know everything.
Well, it's honestly because you have Lauren on this spectrum, you have Michael on this spectrum, and I fall in the middle. Because the thing is, I can do a lot of, or not a lot, but I can do talking. But while I am talking, I am looking at you up and down and I'm reading you down. Like I'm really catching all of your nuances. Yep. I'm really catching all of the subliminal things that people think that they are hiding. Just because I'm talking does not mean I'm picking up what you're saying, because we see each other. All right. We see each other. And it's funny because Michael would do the talking. And so I'm like, how are they responding to Michael?
And Anthony and Lauren both know that I'm gonna throw something in there that is just wild. Just, you got a litmus test. You gotta see your talk. One thing I realized that I've this is a person that has been at multiple conferences I've been at. When they go to tell something that's a little not true, they look at their phone and they act like they're important, like they're gonna pull up the text or the email. And I just look at them like, baby, I know my check's clear at the end of the month, and I know what's happening in 6 months. You can say all this good, but when I talk at you again in the next conference and you still where you're at, but yeah, it's hilarious. Like Lauren says, it works in harmony, and there's no planning.
But the thing about it is, though, it's not like we wrote down these three roles and said who's taking what. This is who we actually are as people. Like I'm going to emphasize that enough, that you have to know who you are and know that, like, just because you have friends who are doing this and they're like this doesn't mean you have to be like that either. Actually, it's more beneficial if you're probably not doing exactly what they're doing or saying exactly what they're saying. You know what I mean? Like, compliment.
I said this on my Twitter the other day. I was like, so when we're having a conversation and you let the conversation go silent, I will more than happily let the conversation continue with silence. Like it's funny because Michael cannot deal with silence. He will fill the void with something.
I'll start whistling. I'll just do something.
I will let silence continue. And that's the thing about with me and at these conferences, when you come up to me, if we are not like besties or something, hey, how you doing? And like, pleasure.
And then Anthony will do this thing. He'll be like, and turn to the wall. Like, don't
I
even
mean,
compare it to somebody.
what else do you want me to do? I truly, and again, this is self-realization on my part. I cannot do small talk. I cannot do, sorry, I can't do white man talk either. That's just not in my body. It's not in my.
I can, and
I
it
know
was
you
very
can.
evident at GMA when I was stumping like I was running for office.
Yes, and I know you can, and I'm so happy for you, truly, honestly. But and honestly, I don't want to. That's not me. In my culture, when we done talking, we are done. Okay. If you wanted to continue to have a conversation with me, let's actually talk about something real. Because, and we also got to realize about these conferences, everybody's being fake as hell.
Fake.
Everybody is fake
Fake.
as hell. So, unless we're talking about something truly real and something of substance, hello, how are you? I hope things are going well. We're done.
That's only 20% of conferences. I really truly feel like most of conferences are bullshit talking, and which is unfortunate for because people go, "Oh, you learn too much," and da-da-da." I'm like, bullshit. Like, no, you
Lord,
we have been to enough of these conferences. We have spoken, presented all these things at these conferences. We know exactly what they are. Y'all are lying to yourselves. You're lying. You just want a weekend of your school paying for you to drink and go crazy. Girl, do that. But don't tell me that you're actually talking about anything real.
Hey,
like,
talk about it. Talk about it. Speak on it.
and this is another thing. It's like I'm happy that we are fortunate. There's something we got to realize is we're fortunate enough to travel in our group of 3.
Oh yeah.
Or like for me, Anthony's case for GMA, we're in a bigger group, but at least like out of us 3, I had an Anthony there. And it's like when I go to like other conferences where I don't have my Anthony or don't have my Lauren, I'm like, I'm gonna just do it. I'm gonna get out. It's not like I don't care about the conference. It's just like I need banter. And when I don't have banter, I will go banter with myself in my mirror in my hotel room. And it is truly I sit up in my bed talking to myself while I watch. I cannot let silence go by.
I believe this.
I believe this 110%. The
Oh
thing is, I'm like, I know Michael be talking to himself because he truly cannot let
Like,
silence. Even, oh my God, sorry, Michael, but it's like we'll just be sitting and finally it goes quiet. Next thing I hear, tap, tap, tap this, gotta make this, or whistle this, or let me tap my foot. I'm like, right. You just cannot let silence go.
okay, y'all. So next week I'm gonna be around Anthony. I'm gonna try to be around him for at least 30 minutes. 30 seconds will be silent.
That would honestly be a miracle. Like truly, because no, and I mean that like you cannot say that for 30 seconds.
Like I'll just start like fingering a Clark study or playing something.
Yes. And what's even worse, this honestly is just
Or when I start my air.
Yes, we'll be in concerts. Lauren know this because we'll be sitting next to Michael in a concert. Mind you, it's quiet in this hall.
So quiet.
Michael's just like, and he'll start conducting, and I'm just like,
girl, sit down. Like, please.
I'm turning red. I don't like this.
My anxiety, it goes spikes around you.
Now you know how my body feels when Anthony's listening to a video and you just tap into another video and my body.
We weren't listening to each other. We were in our own spaces.
Is that I exist in all the bubbles.
all I know is that be too funny. And I just look at him like
Anthony almost saw me like lose it for no reason in October, and he was like, Michael, that was really funny, and it also really annoyed me.
it's just like, bro, like when some people when they get mad or angry or stressed, like they completely just zone out. Michael's the opposite. He was zone out, and it's just like, here it is. But I mean, again, this entire episode we've been talking about learning who you are,
know yourself,
knowing yourself. Well, We know who we are and we know what our things are. And the beautiful thing about us is that we have kind of developed this kind of bubble that really put all of our personalities together that really make a powerful match. Mm-hmm. In this arena that we're in this field that we're in, all of our personalities together is also a survival tactic as well. It really is.
Yes.
So it's funny, Dr. William Lake, he was like, is that the relative pitch crew at Midwest? Whenever he saw us, and like anywhere we went, people always knew, okay, if you see Anthony, you're gonna see Michael and Lauren. If you see Michael, you're gonna see Lauren and Anthony. You see Lauren, you're gonna see Anthony. Like, you gonna see us all together. We are as a unit. And if one of us is not there, where is this one? Where is that one? Yes, that's part of like our thing. We want you to notice that one of us is not there, or notice we're all together. That is deliberate. So all this to say, know who you are and know the people around you as well. And if you are going to make some changes in your life or in your job or whatever, look at the minute details and figure out ways that will actually inspire change and not a knee-jerk reaction like Lauren said, where, oh my gosh, let me do this. And then it doesn't continue after a week. It's because you didn't truly sit down and think about that. You just said, let me put a Band-Aid on something really quickly. Yeah, a Band-Aid does, it will console the wound, but it will never, ever actually stitch the skin back together.
Listen, a Band-Aid don't do nothing for a broken ankle. Like,
oh, not a Southern saying.
Well, and that's
a Southern saying.
And that's it. So again, know yourself and know others. And if you are going to do some change, sit really and think about that. And if you want some people to say, have you thought about this? Reach out to us. Let us know, We'll gladly tell you, yeah, this ain't right. You might want to think about this again.
You can even put who you want to say it to. You want it subtly, you want it like bam, yeah.
But until next time, please enjoy. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we have some great episodes coming up in the future. So until next time, we'll see you later. Bye.